The clock on the wall ticks loudly, each second echoing in the dimly lit office. I sit alone, staring at the glowing screen in front of me, but my mind drifts elsewhere, caught in the weight of the oppressive silence. Midnight is creeping closer, and I can't shake the feeling that something is about to change. I glance around the empty office, the shadows seeming to dance in the corners. Why does it feel like the walls are closing in on me? My thoughts wander to my work routine, a choreography of stress and deadlines. Every day is the same: meetings, emails, and an endless stream of projects that keep piling up. Yet, through it all, there is one constant that stands out. Oliver, my boss. He has this magnetic presence that draws everyone in, but there is a distance to him that I can't quite understand. Why do I feel both excited and anxious around him? I remember our last meeting. His voice was smooth, but there was an intensity in his gaze that made my heart race. "Lydia, can you stay late tonight? We need to go over the project details." His words hung in the air, and I could feel the weight of his stare. I nodded, trying to keep my composure, but inside, I was a whirlwind of confusion. Why do our exchanges feel charged, like there's something unspoken between us? As I sit here, I can't help but reflect on my life outside of work. Ethan, my husband, is waiting for me at home. Our evenings are often quiet, filled with routine and the mundane tasks of daily life. I love him, I do, but sometimes I wonder if love is enough. It seems so different from the thrill I feel at work. Is it wrong to crave excitement when I have a stable life? I find myself lost in thought, replaying moments with Oliver in my mind. The times we've shared laughter during late-night brainstorming sessions. The way his eyes light up when discussing ideas. Each glance exchanged, each quiet moment, feels like a secret between us. Yet, what does it mean? I feel alive when I'm near him. But is it fair to Ethan? Suddenly my phone buzzes, jolting me from my thoughts. A message from Ethan. "Where are you? I miss you." The warmth of his words tugs at my heart. I glance at the clock again. It's getting late. Should I hurry home or stay a bit longer? I can't help but feel a pang of guilt. I know he worries when I stay late, but there's something about these moments that I can't let go of. I take a deep breath, trying to sort through my feelings. What is it that I truly want? Is it the comfort of my predictable life, or the thrill of the unknown? The silence in the office feels heavy, like a blanket smothering my thoughts. I look around, half expecting Oliver to walk in with that charming smile of his, but the office remains empty. As I shift in my seat, I can't help but wonder what lies ahead. Will I always feel this tension? Is there a point where I have to choose between the life I have and the life I want? I feel restless, almost trapped in a web of my own making. The clock ticks again, and I realize I can't sit here forever. I need to make a decision. I can't keep living this double life, caught between the security of my home and the thrill of my work. The question looms over me. How long can I ignore what my heart is telling me? Just then, I hear footsteps echoing in the hallway. My heart skips a beat. Is it Oliver? What if he comes in and I have to face the truth of my feelings? I straighten up, suddenly aware that this moment could change everything. The silence is broken, but what will it reveal? As I sat at my desk, the glow of my computer screen illuminated the late-night office. It was quiet, save for the soft hum of the air conditioning. I took a moment to reflect on the time when Oliver and I worked closely together. It felt like a lifetime ago, but the memories were still fresh in my mind. It had all started with a big project that required our team to put in long hours. Oliver was always there, his presence commanding, yet oddly comforting. I remember the first late night we spent together. We were both tired and slightly punchy, and the laughter came easily. "Did you really think we would finish this by Friday?" I teased him, leaning back in my chair. He chuckled, running a hand through his dark hair. Honestly, I thought we'd be living here for a month. Maybe we should start a sleepover club, I joked. But inside, I felt a rush of excitement. The way he looked at me, with those piercing blue eyes, sent my heart racing. As the nights turned into weeks, our camaraderie deepened. We shared stories and dreams, and each laugh felt like a small victory against the weight of our work. I could feel the lines of professionalism blurring, the thrill of success mixing with something else entirely: attraction. One evening, after finishing a particularly difficult presentation, we found ourselves alone in the office. The lights were dim, and everything felt charged. I could hear my heart pounding in my chest as Oliver leaned against the desk, looking at me intently. You know, Lydia, I've never met someone who works as hard as you do, he said, his voice low. Thanks, Oliver. I guess we all have our reasons, I replied, my mind racing. I thought of Ethan, of our quiet evenings, and the routine that had become so predictable. Could I really be feeling this way about my boss? Oliver stepped closer, and I could feel the heat radiating from him. I appreciate your dedication. It's inspiring. The air was thick with unspoken words, and I could barely breathe. Each passing moment felt like a secret, a shared thrill that both excited and terrified me. But as our laughter faded into silence, I felt a pang of guilt. Ethan had always been there for me, always supportive. Yet I couldn't shake the feeling of being trapped in a monotonous marriage. Was my love for him enough? Do you ever feel like you need more? I found myself asking Oliver, the question slipping out before I could stop it. He looked taken aback, surprise flickering in his eyes. More? In what way? I hesitated, unsure of how to articulate the turmoil within me. I mean, like in life, in relationships. He studied me for a moment, his expression shifting to one of understanding. I get it. Sometimes I feel like I'm just going through the motions. A silence hung between us, heavy with the weight of our confessions. It was thrilling to share that moment of vulnerability, yet it filled me with dread. As the days rolled on, I found myself counting the hours until I could see Oliver again. Each meeting was a mix of exhilaration and guilt. I couldn't deny the chemistry between us. It was electric. The laughter we shared felt forbidden, a secret that only made it more intense. But with every stolen glance and shared joke, I felt the pull toward the edge of a cliff. I was teetering between two worlds, the comfort of my life with Ethan and the thrilling uncertainty with Oliver. One evening, as we wrapped up another late night, I caught Oliver watching me as I packed my things. You're really something, Lydia, he said softly. Just doing my job, I replied. But deep down, I felt something more. It's more than that. You bring something different to this place. His words hung in the air, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of longing. But then, a wave of guilt crashed over me. I had a life outside these walls, a life with Ethan. As I left the office that night, I felt a knot forming in my stomach. I loved Ethan, didn't I? But why did being with Oliver make me feel so alive? I couldn't help but question what it all meant. The night was thick with tension as I stood in the dim glow of the office lights, my heart racing. I couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed between Oliver and me. The air felt electric, charged with unspoken words and stolen glances. We had been working late again, the quiet hum of our computers filling the space between us. But tonight was different. Lydia, Oliver said softly, his voice cutting through the silence. I looked up, our eyes locking for a moment that felt like eternity. Can we talk? Sure, I replied, trying to sound casual while my stomach twisted in knots. I had felt the pull between us growing stronger. but I never expected it to come to this. He gestured toward the small couch in the corner. As I sat down, I noticed how close he was. My pulse quickened. "I've been thinking about us," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Us?" I echoed, my heart pounding. "What do you mean?" Oliver leaned closer, the warmth of his presence enveloping me. "I know things have been intense lately. I can't ignore it anymore." His gaze was intense, and I felt a mix of excitement and fear. "I feel it too," I admitted, my voice trembling. "But what about Ethan?" His eyes darkened slightly at the mention of my husband. "I know it's complicated, but Lydia, I can't help how I feel about you." In that moment, the world outside faded away. The weight of our shared struggles, the late nights, the laughter, it all came rushing back. And then, before I could think, he leaned in and kissed me. The kiss was electric, igniting a fire I had kept buried for so long. It was passionate and filled with longing, leaving me breathless. But as I pulled away, reality crashed back in. Guilt washed over me like a cold wave. "What have we done?" I breathed, my heart racing. The thrill of the kiss felt like a betrayal, a sharp contrast to the life I had with Ethan. "I don't know," Oliver replied, his brow furrowing in concern. "But it felt right, doesn't it?" I shook my head, tears pricking at the corners of my eyes. "It feels amazing, but I can't just forget about Ethan. He deserves better than this." Oliver's expression softened, and he reached for my hand. "I'm in a loveless marriage too, Lydia. I understand the weight of it all. We share something special, something that feels real." "Real?" I asked, my voice shaky. "What if this is just a fleeting moment? What if we're just running away from our problems?" He sighed, frustration evident on his face. "Maybe it is. But what if it's not? What if we're meant to find happiness together?" I pulled my hand away, feeling the walls of my life closing in on me. "I don't know if I can do this. I don't want to hurt anyone, Oliver. I'm so confused." He stood up, running a hand through his hair. "I get it, but you need to think about what you truly want. Do you want to stay in a marriage that makes you unhappy?" I looked down, my heart heavy. Ethan has always been there for me. I can't just throw that away because of a moment with you. "Then what are you going to do?" Oliver asked, his voice a mix of concern and urgency. "You can't ignore your feelings forever." I felt the weight of his words pressing down on me. I was torn between the thrill of this new connection and the loyalty I felt toward Ethan. My emotions were a whirlwind, and I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, unsure of whether to jump or retreat. "I need time to think," I finally said, my voice barely above a whisper. Oliver nodded, his expression softening. "I'll give you space. But remember, I'm here if you want to talk." As he left the room, I sat in the silence, my heart racing. I was lost in a storm of feelings, grappling with the reality of my choices. Could I really let go of the safety of my life with Ethan for the unknown thrill of something new? No matter which path I chose, I knew it would change everything. As the moon hung high in the sky, I lay in Oliver's arms, my heart racing with a mix of excitement and dread. Each kiss felt electric, but as the night grew darker, so did my thoughts. I could feel the weight of my choices pressing down on me. The thrill that once filled me began to fade, replaced by a creeping sense of guilt that wrapped around my chest like a vice. "Are you okay?" Oliver's voice broke through my spiraling thoughts. He looked at me with those deep, searching eyes, and for a moment, I wanted nothing more than to lose myself in him. But the reality of my life tugged at me, pulling me back to the surface. "Yeah, I hesitated, unsure of how to convey the storm inside me. "I just need some air." With a nod, we stepped out onto the balcony, The cool night air hit my face, refreshing yet sobering. I leaned against the railing, staring out at the city lights twinkling like stars. They seemed so far away, just like the life I was leaving behind. "Is this really what you want?" Oliver asked, his voice low. "I know it feels good, but what about Ethan?" His words struck me like a slap. I turned to him, my heart pounding. "I don't know. I feel so alive with you, but I can't shake the guilt. I'm betraying him." Oliver stepped closer, his expression serious. "You need to decide what you truly want. This isn't just a fling for me." I felt tears prick my eyes. But what if I lose everything? What if this is just a fantasy? Isn't it already a fantasy, being stuck in that routine with Ethan? You deserve more than that, Lydia. His gaze softened, but I could see the urgency in his eyes. I pulled away, pacing the small balcony. My mind raced back to the messages I had ignored. Ethan had texted me just before I left. I could almost hear his voice, filled with concern. "Where are you? Are you coming home?" "Lydia?" Oliver called out, breaking my train of thought. "Talk to me." "I don't know what to say," I replied, my voice trembling. "I'm scared." "Scared of what? Of feeling something real?" His tone was gentle, but the intensity of his words hit me hard. I felt like I was standing at the edge of a cliff, teetering between two worlds. "I'm scared of hurting Ethan. He deserves better than this," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "But do you deserve better?" Oliver asked, stepping closer. "You're not happy, are you?" His question hung in the air, heavy with truth. I thought about my quiet evenings with Ethan, the way we sat in silence, each lost in our own worlds. I thought about the laughter, the warmth, but also the emptiness that lingered. "I don't know," I confessed, my voice cracking. "I love him, but I feel so alive with you. It's like I can breathe again." "Then maybe it's time to choose," he urged gently. "But you have to be honest with yourself and Ethan." I looked back at the city, the lights shimmering like dreams just out of reach. "What if I ruin everything?" I whispered, fear gripping my heart. "Sometimes you have to break something to make it whole again," he said softly. "You deserve to find your happiness, Lydia." I felt a tear slip down my cheek as I considered his words. I was torn between the life I had built and the passion that ignited within me. "I need to go home," I finally said, my voice trembling with decision. "I need to face this." Oliver nodded, his expression a mix of understanding and sadness. "I'll always be here for you, no matter what you choose." As I stepped away from the balcony, my heart felt heavy, but determined. Each step felt like a step towards a truth I had been avoiding. I knew I had to confront my feelings, not just for Ethan, but for myself. The shadows of guilt followed me, but I had to find my way back to the light, even if it meant facing the hardest conversation of my life. After a night filled with passion and tangled emotions, I walked into my home, feeling the weight of the world on my shoulders. The soft light from the living room spilled into the hallway, and as I stepped inside, I spotted Ethan sitting on the couch, his eyes wide with worry. The clock ticked loudly in the silence, each second echoing my guilt. "Where have you been, Lydia?" he asked, his voice tight. I opened my mouth to speak, but the truth felt like a lump in my throat. How could I explain the thrill I had just experienced with Oliver, the excitement that made me feel alive, yet also the guilt that threatened to consume me? I hesitated, my heart racing. I just lost track of time at work," I finally managed to say, forcing a smile that felt more like a mask. Ethan's eyes narrowed, and for a moment, I saw the flicker of suspicion. "It's past midnight. You've been working late a lot lately. Is everything okay?" I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. Yeah, it's just a busy time. You know how it is. But he didn't look convinced. He leaned forward, his hands clenched together. You can tell me if something's wrong, Lydia. I'm here for you. In that moment, I realized I was standing at a crossroads. The truth loomed over me like a storm cloud, ready to unleash its fury. I felt the heavy air between us, and I knew I couldn't keep hiding. Ethan, Before I could finish, my phone buzzed on the table, cutting through the tension. It was a message from Oliver, and I felt a surge of panic. I couldn't let Ethan see it. Just a work message, I said, trying to sound casual, as I picked up the phone and quickly turned it face down. Ethan's expression changed, a mix of relief and concern. Okay, but please, just be honest with me. I can sense something is off. His words shot straight to my heart. I had built a fragile world, one that felt safe, but also suffocating. I looked into his eyes, searching for the right words. Ethan, I think we need to talk. His brow furrowed, and I could see the worry deepening. What do you mean? Is this about work? Did something happen? No, it's not work, I said, my voice trembling. It's about us. He leaned back, confusion written all over his face. Us? What do you mean? Lydia, you're scaring me. I felt tears prickling at the corners of my eyes, and I fought to keep them at bay. I've been feeling lost lately, like I'm not sure who I am anymore. Ethan's face softened, and he reached for my hand. You're not lost. You're my wife. We can figure this out together. But I felt the truth clawing at me, begging to be set free. I've been spending time with someone else, Ethan. Someone from work. I didn't mean for it to happen, but... His expression shifted, the hurt evident in his eyes. Someone else? Lydia, are you saying you're having an affair? My heart sank. I didn't want to hurt you. I never wanted to betray you. But it's true. I've been seeing Oliver. The silence that followed felt unbearable. I could see him processing my words, the reality of my confession crashing down around us. How long has this been going on? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Just a few months, but it's complicated. I never meant for it to go this far. I feel torn, Ethan. I really do love you, but what? He pressed, his voice breaking. But you love him too? I felt the tears finally spill over, and I nodded, unable to hold back the truth any longer. I don't know what love is anymore. I feel trapped between two worlds. Ethan looked away, his jaw clenched. You need to choose, Lydia. I can't keep living like this, not knowing if you're with him or with me. His words struck me like a dagger. I had to face the reality of my choices. I could feel the weight of my decisions crashing down on me, the love I had built with Ethan, the thrill I felt with Oliver. Everything was unraveling, and I knew I had to confront what it all meant for my future. I took a deep breath, knowing that whatever happened next would change everything. I need time to think, I whispered, feeling the enormity of the moment settle around us like a thick fog. The morning light filtered through the curtains, casting a soft glow on the room where I sat, my heart heavy with the weight of my confession. Ethan had left for work, his silence louder than any argument we could have had. The truth hung in the air like a thick fog, and I could hardly breathe. I had told him about Oliver, about the nights filled with passion and the feelings I could no longer hide. I felt as if I was standing on the edge of a cliff, looking down into the uncertainty below. As I stared at my reflection in the mirror, I noticed the dark circles under my eyes. I had been living in a whirlwind of emotions, and now I felt lost. What have I done? I whispered to myself. tears threatening to spill over. The guilt wrapped around me like a heavy blanket, suffocating and cold. I decided to take a walk to clear my mind. The streets were still waking up, and the fresh air felt good against my skin. But with every step, my thoughts drifted back to Ethan. I could picture his face when I told him. The shock, the hurt, the betrayal. It was all too real. I had to be honest, I reminded myself, but the words felt weak against the reality of his pain. As I walked, I found myself in the small park near our apartment. It was a place filled with memories, where Ethan and I had shared laughter and quiet moments. I sat on a bench, trying to gather my thoughts. The sun peeked through the leaves, creating a beautiful pattern on the ground. Yet, all I could think about was the shadow of my choices. "Lydia?" A voice broke through my thoughts. I looked up to see my friend Sarah approaching. Her smile faded as she saw my expression. "Are you okay?" I forced a smile. "Just thinking." "About Ethan?" she asked gently. I nodded, feeling a lump form in my throat. I told him about Oliver. He was devastated. Sarah sat down beside me. "That must have been really hard. Do you think you made the right choice?" "I don't know," I admitted, my voice trembling. "I felt like I had to be honest, but now I'm questioning everything. I've hurt him, and I can't take it back." "It sounds like you're in a tough spot," Sarah said softly. "But maybe this is a chance for you to find out what you truly want." I sighed, staring at the ground. But what if I made the wrong choice? What if I threw away my life with Ethan for something that might not even work out with Oliver? "Life is messy, Lydia," she replied. "Sometimes you have to take risks to find out who you really are. Just remember to be kind to yourself, too." Her words resonated with me. I realized that this journey was not just about love or betrayal. It was also about discovering who I was beneath the layers of my life. I had spent so long trying to please others that I had lost sight of my own happiness. As I left the park, I felt a flicker of hope. I knew I had to face Ethan again, to talk about what had happened and what it meant for both of us. The road ahead would not be easy, but I had to embrace the growth that came with my choices. Later that evening, I returned home. The house felt different, quieter. I found Ethan sitting on the couch, staring blankly at the television. "Hey," I said softly, unsure of how to break the silence. He looked up, his eyes filled with a mix of sadness and confusion. "I've been thinking," he said slowly, "about us." I took a deep breath, my heart racing. "I want to talk too. I know I've hurt you, and I'm so sorry." "I just don't understand how you could do this," he replied, his voice shaky. "We had something, didn't we?" "Yes, we did," I said, my heart aching. But I was also feeling trapped. I didn't want to keep lying to you. I thought being honest was the right thing. Ethan sat up straighter, a flicker of anger crossing his face. "Honesty? You think that makes it better? You broke my trust." "I know," I said, tears streaming down my cheeks. "But I need you to know that this is also about me figuring out who I am." He looked away, running a hand through his hair. "I don't know if I can forgive you." "I understand," I said, feeling the weight of my choices pushing me down. "But I hope we can talk about this, about what we both want. I don't want to lose you completely." In that moment, I realized that no matter what happened next, I had to embrace the difficult path of growth. Every choice I made would shape my identity, and I had to be brave enough to face the consequences. Share this story if you believe that honesty can lead to personal growth, even in the face of heartache. Leave a comment about a time when being truthful changed your life, and subscribe to the channel for more compelling stories like this one.